We will now hear from our last speaker prior to the closing panel session. Melissa Lavasani is the founder and CEO of the Psychedelic Medicine Coalition, or PMC, a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit advancing federal and state policies to expand access to psychedelic-assisted therapies. Melissa authored and led the passage of Washington, D.C.'s Initiative 81, the Entheogenic Plant and Fungus Policy Act of 2020, which passed with 76% voter approval, the largest ballot initiative victory in the city's history. Under her leadership, PMC had partisan support in Congress, convened national stakeholders, and advanced key federal legislation, including the Innovative Therapies Centers of Excellence Act of 2025. Ms. Lavasani holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Macalester College, an MS in Management from the University of Denver, and a Master of Public Policy from George Mason University. We'll turn it over to you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I have a very short time with you today to talk about cross-sector collaboration and how we all turned psychedelic science into federal policy and patient access. That was a pretty thorough introduction of PMC and me, but just as some background, we are the only nonpartisan 501c3 advocacy organization that's actually based in Washington, D.C. Our goal is to get psychedelics integrated into the American healthcare system in the most practical and in a way that patients have affordable and safe access to psychedelics. So we had a pretty good bio that was presented right before I got on, but the most important thing to know about me is that I have 21 years of experience in Washington, D.C. The majority of that time has been spent in and around government systems, and I've become very familiar with my time here on how to make things move in Washington, D.C. and what systems, what levers you need to pull to really make systemic change. So, why we are here. As many of you know, FDA approvals are very close on the horizon for us. These are likely to start happening within the next couple of years. That means the clock is absolutely ticking to make sure that all the systems that are currently in place are ready to deliver these treatments. But science alone does not equal patient access. We can have amazing trial results, the most amazing trial results in the world, without the right policy frameworks. Those therapies really will not make it into the clinics, and the patients will not get that care and access that they need. So that is where federal policy comes in. Policy is the bridge between research and real-world practice. It is what connects the evidence to care and ultimately to insurance reimbursement. And collaboration is absolutely critical to make all this happen. If we move forward in our silos, with states experimenting one way, researchers experimenting in their own silo, and advocacy groups going about their advocacy in their own way, we really risk fragmentation and inequity as real outcomes. Only by working together across sectors can we ensure that these therapies reach patients in a safe, consistent, and equitable manner. So I'm sure everyone here is aware that psychedelics are not like any other therapeutic area. They're completely unique in nature, and they touch multiple domains all at the same time. It's medicine, it's law, it's reimbursement, it's public safety, and there's a deeply entrenched culture that is attached to psychedelics that really drives what happens inside the space. That complexity means we can't really treat it as simply just another drug approval process. And I see this all the time in the industry where you have a company that's in drug development as going through the FDA process, and they say, we're not a psychedelic company, we're a mental health company, which like both can be true. Let's just be honest about where we all stand on this. We know that the field carries enormous public interest, but there's still lingering stigma. So that combination makes it extremely important now more than ever that we lead with evidence, safety, and transparency to really build that public trust and build the public knowledge about these medicines before they become available. There's not one single sector that's going to advance this field on its own. It's not just FDA approval. It's not just research funding. It's kind of everything working together at the same time in coordination. Researchers can generate the data, but without reimbursement, patients won't have access. So advocacy groups can push the conversation forward, but without practitioners and systems on board and aligned with their advocacy, there's nowhere to deliver that care. Progress can only happen when science, practice, and advocacy and policy all move together. So one of the greatest risks we face is as a field together is moving forward in silos. If research advances, but reimbursement pathways are not ready, we'll end up with this amazing groundbreaking data, but no access for patients or clinicians. If states move faster than federal policy, which is the current state that we're in now, we'll create a patchwork of laws and standards that differ across the entire country by state, leading to inequity and confusion. And if advocacy moves without strong data, we risk political enthusiasm outpacing the evidence, which can trigger backlash and stall in momentum and actually put some pretty bad policies in place. And once those policies are out there, they're really hard to claw back in. So we have to be really intentional about how we move forward. So the lesson is clear, and I hope that the short time I have with you all today, you will have this as a takeaway that siloed progress creates fragmentation, and that true sustainable access requires collaboration across all sectors at once. Oh, my slide is not. All right, there we go. When we look at psychedelics through the lens of federal policy, several key players emerge. On the agency side, the FDA manages approvals and labeling. NIH creates critical research. The VA serves as a healthcare system for a specific veteran population. And SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, addresses community issues and community programs and education, while CMS sets reimbursement and coverage policy. Congress plays a vital role in all of this, not only by passing legislation that supports it, but also through working through the appropriations process to get the budgets and funding where it needs to be, and also providing oversight over all of this work. But the challenge lies in that there's still major gaps that we need to fill before psychedelics become available to the general public. We don't have reimbursement codes that guarantee that in these treatments will be reimbursable and paid for. We don't have a federal workforce or any training standards in place. States are moving at lightning speed faster than federal systems, which risk creating that fragmented landscape. This is why this collaboration is really urgent. Aligning federal policy is what ultimately ensures equitable, safe, affordable, sustainable access nationwide across patient populations. Oops. All right, to build a sustainable future for psychedelic medicine, every sector has a role to play, and no one can succeed alone. Researchers and universities are critical for generating the evidence base and defining safety standards. Practitioners and health systems provide the real-world insights into what care delivery looks like and what workforce training will be required. I almost wish I didn't put a dotted line between those two fields, but like they are intrinsically coordinated, and there's absolutely a feedback system between all of these. Advocacy organizations and patients bring the public voice, which is important for really gaining traction on the political momentum that will actually drive the legislative change that has to happen here in Washington, D.C. Industry and biotech companies ensure scalability and innovation. They turn these experimental therapies into accessible treatments for the general public. And Congress and federal agencies are essential to translate all of this into policy, regulation, and reimbursement. Collaboration across all these groups is what will determine whether psychedelic medicine makes the leap from science to practice. So collaboration isn't just theoretical. We're already seeing how it works in practice. RMPDS produces trusted data and safety monitoring tools that directly inform policymakers, and that's extremely powerful contribution, especially at this time when there's still a lot of questions about psychedelics and the safety around them. At PMC, we take these insights, translate them into federal advocacy. We convene partners through initiatives and events like the Federal Summit on Psychedelic Medicine, which was held last May. It brought together Congress, agencies, researchers, clinicians, and various patient populations and other stakeholders that are involved in the psychedelic field. Veterans and patient voices provide bipartisan political force that humanizes the debate and really creates the urgency and that political will that I was talking about before. Meanwhile, universities and practitioners contribute both the evidence and the clinical perspectives that ensure policy reflects what care looks like in the real world. And when these groups work together, we don't just advance science, we create federal readiness for meaningful patient access. So what does the path forward look like? First, we need to continue breaking down silos. Convenings like this event are a perfect example of how science and policy can meet in the same room. where we have overlap. We always have overlap with each other. And right now, in the kind of the beginning of this movement, there's a lot of shared interests and shared goals that we all have. We must scale that collaboration nationally. Doing the events like Federal Summit Psychedelic Medicine is designed to bring Congress, federal agencies, researchers, clinicians, and veterans together at one table to create alignment. We need to share roadmaps that connect the dots. Research findings must flow into reimbursement frameworks, which then translate into real-world clinical practice and patient access. And it's essential to engage Congress early with trusted data. Organizations like RMPDS play a critical role in ensuring that evidence drives policymaking. So we need to continue building bipartisan coalitions rooted both in science and the real world stories of patients and families who've been impacted by psychedelic healing. And that's how we make access equitable and sustainable. As we close, I want to leave you with this notion that science is necessary, but it's not sufficient. We can have really groundbreaking data and successful clinical trials, but without collaboration, these therapies will remain out of reach for the patients that need it the most. And the only way to move this field forward meaningfully is if researchers, practitioners, advocates, and policymakers all act together. Federal policy can be the bridge that will transform the work that everyone is doing in the field into real-world patient access, and collaboration is what will make that bridge strong enough to carry us there. So I really appreciate RMPDS for bringing me on to this event and letting me share my perspective from Washington, D.C. I really appreciate it. This is my contact information. If anyone wants to reach out to me, if you've got an organization that wants to step into the federal advocacy space, we need as many voices as possible to support this work. And I hope to hear from some of you soon.
Thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate that clear overview of the policy landscape.